Morning, El Segundo. We are calling to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council. We will start with the invocation led by Pastor Wes Harding of the Bridge Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Nickel. All please rise.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you so much for allowing prayer to go before this meeting. I really know it makes a difference here and our community as well. So thank you very much. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, first I want to give thanks for your protection over our community, for those of us who live here, for those of us who work here. Secondly, I'd like to pause and acknowledge those people who have lost loved ones in recent tragedies, and we realize how precious life is. Let us pause for a few moments right now. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for hearing our prayers and connecting with our hearts as we acknowledge and remember loved ones and your grace and your mercy. Thank you for our public servants, fire, police, medics, city workers, and all of their families because they serve and protect our community so well. Please be part of our proceedings this evening as we discuss and sometimes passionately share our points of view. Thank you for covering our proceedings with honesty and truth and candor. Give us the ability to respect and listen to our neighbors as they express their heart and their concerns. I pray that we would conclude this meeting tonight with unity, clarity, and a greater fondness for our fellow citizen. Heavenly Father, thank you for being here, for guiding our proceedings and protecting our community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Harding, and thank you, Councilman Nickel. All right, we have presentations this evening, and the first one, we're really excited to meet two new members of the police force. So I think Chief Whalen coming up. You
guys can stand up a little bit more. All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. It's a great honor to introduce our two newest members of the department. Before I do, I'm going to take advantage of having the microphone and invite the public to our second annual National Night Out tomorrow evening. Last year was our first foray into that. It was a huge success. So we're going to be continuing that, building on that tomorrow evening from 5 to 8. We invite the public to come out and join us. It'll be out here on Main Street in front of Civic Center. We're going to have lots of activity for families, for kids, barbecuing. Great opportunity for us to meet the community and them to meet us, and we're really looking forward to it. So, in our ongoing efforts to really hire the best and brightest and bring them in here to serve this community, I have two of our latest hiring. I'm going to start on my left, your right, and this is Lucas Montero. He graduated the Rio Hondo Police Academy about 2.5 weeks ago, I believe. Correct. And he's been with us since. Lucas was born in Madrid, Spain. He speaks fluent Spanish, French, in addition to English. Moved here as a young man, and after school he went into the family import business. They import I'll call it exotic meats because I can never remember the names of the meats that he says that they import. But it looks like some really good stuff that he's promising to bring me sometime soon. But Lucas has always had a calling to serve. And between family, school, work, all of that, he didn't have the opportunity until now. And so we're very fortunate that he chose the El Segundo Police Department to come to. We're really looking forward to seeing great things from him. He came here because one of our current members recruited him. They play soccer together here in El Segundo. So he kept selling him on the El Segundo Police Department. Lucas looked at us along with many, many other organizations, and he picked us, and we're really happy for that. On my right is David Deady. He was born in Switzerland, and he speaks fluent German in addition to English. He came here, and I don't know if the fire chief's in the room or not, But he came here to play basketball at Mount Mercy College. That's why he came to the United States. Now, you might sense a common theme that's developing here every time I introduce new police officers, but I can assure you, whether or not they play basketball is not a question we ask during the oral boards. That being said, I am looking forward to the Battle of the Badges this fall. After college, David went to work for the Santa Cruz. Actually, prior to that, enlisted in the United States Army National Guard, went to Fort Benning, Georgia, where coincidentally about 30 years apart we went to the exact same training grounds. But he's a mortarman right now in the Army National Guard, Inglewood, I believe, correct? Yes, sir. After Army basic training and school, he went to the Santa Cruz Police Department, where he worked for about a year. So he's with our new marketing campaign, our second high-quality lateral police officer that's chosen the El Segundo Police Department. In his background, nothing but rave reviews from his peers up there. They were super sorry to see him leave. We're super happy to have him here and looking forward to great things from him as well. So I told them I'd each give them just a second or two at the mic to introduce themselves, and then we could take the picture after.
Good afternoon, everyone. He said that El Segundo was fortunate to have me. I feel like I'm fortunate that they chose me, so I'm very honored and hope to do the best to serve this community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Deady. It's an honor and privilege to work for El Segundo, and thank you for having me.
Well, they certainly follow instructions well. That was pretty quick. Thank you. Welcome to both of you. So you actually moved down from Santa Cruz to come work for us, or did you have family down here, or what was the?
Yes, sir. My wife is from Long Beach, and we have 5 kids. Our family is down here, so more support and help here. So that's
5 kids. You've been busy. I can relate. I got 5 also. Anyway, welcome to you both. Thank you.
Let's do a photo.
By the way, Chief, I was with another mayor this past week in a local city, and your program is definitely working because she had some words for me. So, congrats. Yes, it's awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right, next up we have here the El Segundo Youth Drama presents a sneak peek of the upcoming production of the Addams Family, and director Meredith Pettit is going to present on this.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you very much for having us tonight for this presentation. I want to invite you, all of you, and the community to the Addams Family, a production of our El Segundo Youth Drama program. Our summer program is actually held at the El Segundo High School Performing Arts Center. So we have plenty of tickets available. We want to show the kids that they have a grand audience and a support system here in El Segundo. So please check out the performance of the Addams Family next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 15th, 16th, 17th at 7 p.m. and Sunday matinee at 2 p.m. I'm going to introduce one of the stars of the show. This is Olivia Reeds. She is 10 years old, and she is playing Pugsley from the Addams Family, and she's going to sing the song What If. Also want to introduce our El Segundo Youth Drama director and producer, Natalie Kahn. Come on up, both of you. And also want to take the opportunity, where'd Darren go? To introduce our rec supervisor, Darren Yule, who is our supervisor who oversees this program at the clubhouse. So you're going to be right here in front. We're going to turn the microphones over to you.
Not too bad. Yeah. Testing, testing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that sounds promising.
What if she never tortures me anymore? Would I make? What if she never nails my diamond bathroom floor? What if she walks away, leaving me a-okay, hiding in out? Would she be could set my hair aflame. My eyes would mace that without her it wouldn't be the same. Wednesday will drink and then she'll be herself again. Lucas will leave her still sweet and torture me, just like she always did. Till then, I'm just a stranger.
Olivia, that's awesome. Thank you. So you're gonna be in the production? Awesome. We'll have to come out for it. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Meredith, for the great introduction. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nickel?
Here.
Councilmember Pimentel? Absent. Councilmember Brand?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Perstek?
Here.
Mayor Boyles?
Here. All right, now is the time and place for public communications. As a reminder, a 5-minute limit per person. Please approach the podium if you'd like to speak.
Good evening. We will not be singing because she was incredible. We should all be going to the Addams Family soon, and we're going to go. I'm Marcia Hanson with the El Segundo Chamber,
And I'm Linda Johnson with the El Segundo Chamber.
and we have props. These are flags. Good evening, Mayor Boyles and members of the City Council, the El Segundo Chamber of Commerce, the El Segundo Police Officers Association, several guys here, and the Automobile Driving Museum would like to invite you and the community to join us for the 22nd Annual Main Street Car Show. The event on Saturday, August 17th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is one of the largest events in the South Bay. Main Street in downtown El Segundo from El Segundo Boulevard to Mariposa Avenue will be filled with up to 400 unique cars, including Woodies, hot rods, funny cars, classic cars, and more. The crowd is expected to grow above 2,000 again this year as spectators enjoy 2 live bands, food and drink specials from local restaurants and breweries, shopping, and more. Car show merchandise will be available along with fun opportunities, sponsor booths, and giveaways.
So this event is quickly becoming one of the premier car shows in Southern California, with participants coming from as far away as Palm Desert, Visalia, Santa Barbara, and San Diego. It offers a great afternoon for families and car enthusiasts. Proceeds of the show go right back into the community through events and programs supported by the El Segundo Chamber and the El Segundo Police Officers Association. We have been told by attendees that attend this event that it's quickly becoming the favorite Southern California car show. It is a tremendous asset to the city of El Segundo and specifically our downtown business community. We're happy to have everybody downtown. The Chamber is honored to produce the event with the El Segundo Police Officers Association and couldn't do it without the support of the Automobile Driving Museum, along with all of our sponsors and volunteers from many of the community organizations in the city.
I know you're all wondering, how do I find out more, right? So you can go onto the Main Street Car Show Facebook page, also our elsegundochamber.com, or just give us a call at the Chamber, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. We look forward to seeing the entire community out on the 17th. It's going to be a fabulous day on Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia and Linda. Appreciate it.
Hello there, my name is Chris Edom. I've been here a few times before about the El Segundo skate park renovation, and just wanted to bring it up again, be the squeaky wheel. I brought some printouts of it. The cost of the renovation is about $337,000. I recently saw an article in the Herald about the Acacia pool, and I got to thinking like, hey, where would the money be better spent? The teen center and renovating that and everything, so I'd like to pass these out to you guys. You can review them, and just remember that we're still here and we want the park renovated.
Thank you, Mr. Edom. And at the end of public comments, we can give you an update
Okay.
on that if you want to stick around for a few.
Should I put these right here?
Evening, Council. Ron Swanson, resident business owner here in town. It's about time. You're putting it, classing it up with the Aloha shirts, and Mr. Nickel, you can lose the sport coat, a little more relaxed. I got to tell you, I had a chance to talk to Scott, our new CM, several times now. And in between Scott and the two officers I just met, I think we're 3-0 right now. We're doing really well. I mean, class act. I mean, believe with my chat with Scott, it was everything at the meeting we had here at the town hall and what we wanted in a CM, and then you guys made the right choice. It's right on the money. I do have one complaint, though. It's getting really hard. This is a good thing, though, too. It's getting really hard to find a parking spot in downtown El Segundo at lunchtime. But that's a good thing. That the economy is roaring. I was thinking tonight, even if I wanted to retire, we're too busy to do that. I can't even get close to it. My boys would probably throw me out the door before I could say I'm done. But the last thing I would like to mention is that on September 11th, the S&S family and the Swanson family will once again be sponsoring a lunch here for the employees. The In-N-Out truck will be pulling up on Main Street in front of the fire department like we did last year. Amanda has done great things with helping. She took over for Mickey. She's now arranging all the department heads for the head count. And it'll be from 11 to 1:30 and for all the employees here in the town. For the people out in TV land, it is an employee-only event because we do have some problems with that sometimes, but people are understanding. So I would like to invite council and the entire city staff to come out and enjoy a In-N-Out on compliments of S&S and our family. And it is the 11th this year. I've already signed a contract for next year, but we moved it to the 10th because it's leap year next year. So the 11th will be a Friday, and we'd only be feeding half the people here, unless something changes on that. We can amend that, but right now we're going to have it on September 10th of 2020. So look forward to seeing you, and you guys are doing great. And like I said, it's a little more relaxed atmosphere here tonight. So I saw Richard and Alan are here even, so it's a good thing to see them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson, and thank you for doing that so many years in a row. Appreciate it. All right, looks like that is it. City Council comments related to public communications. And Mr. Edom, just really quickly, the last budget workshop that we had, we realized as a council that it would probably be a disservice to wait 2 years to address the teen center, the skate park, and the basketball court. So we asked staff to accelerate those programs, even if it meant deferring others, not necessarily Acacia. We're still waiting to see if we get a grant back for Acacia Park that would help with that. But we realize that there's huge utilization on those facilities. So Scott, I don't know if you wanted to add to that or if that's sufficient.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the gentleman, our Rec and Park Director will follow up with you to explain the process in terms of how the budget's going to work. Okay, all right. So we'll make sure we follow up at the staff level. with
Great,
that
and
individual.
thank you for voicing your opinion. Appreciate it. Again, any other council comments? All right. Item A, approve order of the agenda. Are there any changes that would like to be made? Well, one change I'll note is that we are moving a presentation on the art walk to the end of the evening, which will be just before public communications. Otherwise, everybody good with the agenda as is? May I have a motion?
So moved without revision.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. B, consideration of a motion to read and approve all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. All right, consent agenda. Any polls from the consent agenda? Nope,
Make a
okay.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you. Public hearing. Item 8, consideration and possible action regarding environmental assessment number EA-1201 to approve the proposed amendment to the general plan and zoning ordinance for the Rosecrans-Sepulveda Partners 4 LLC Beach Cities Media Campus Project at 2021 Rosecrans Avenue to change the site's land use and zoning designations from commercial center to urban mixed-use south. Approve a 10-year development agreement, certify an environmental impact report, and adopt the statement of overriding considerations pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. And Mr. Mitnick, who will be presenting on this? Mr. Lee, looks like.
I'll have Sam introduce it.
Good evening. Ethan Edwards, our project planner, will be presenting tonight.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor Boyles and council members. I will give you a quick overview of the project, and let me just roll right into it. See if I can get this to move on. The title of the project is the Beach Cities Media Campus Project, and the project site is the former Air Products facility, and it's located at the southeast quadrant of the city at 2021 Rosecrans Avenue at the border of El Segundo and Manhattan Beach. The I-405 freeway is roughly 1.1 miles to the east, with PCH approximately a quarter mile to the west. Directly east and adjacent to the project site is the Continental Park development. Uses to the west and northwest include the Plaza El Segundo Shopping Center and the Point Retail Center. There is a vacant lot to the north, and directly south across Rosecrans Avenue are retail and office uses within the city of Manhattan Beach. The Beach Cities Media Campus will include approximately 313,000 total square feet, made up of 240,000 square feet of creative office space, 66,000 square feet of studio and production facilities, and 7,000 square feet of retail. The site is accessed via 2 entry points off of Rosecrans Avenue and 1 entry point through the adjacent retail center, which takes its access off of Nash Street. The project site has convenient access to public transportation and is served by the Beach City Transit bus line number 125 and the Metro Green Line. The closest Metro rail station is the Douglas Station, which is approximately a half mile to the east. Project approvals include a general plan amendment and a zone change. The general plan land use designation and zoning of the property will be amended from commercial center, or C4, to urban mixed use, MUS. With the general plan amendment and zone change, the Beach Cities Media Campus is consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance. The project approvals will also include a 10-year development agreement. The development agreement limits build out to 313,000 square feet, limits FAR to 1.13, limits height to 140 feet, and has a list of prohibited uses such as drive-through restaurants, adult businesses, catering services, flight kitchens, freight forwarding, and service stations. Development agreement includes public benefits as proposed by the project applicant, such as providing physical benefits to the city's general fund in terms of increased employment and utility, business license, and property, and other tax revenues, which are anticipated to exceed $390,000 annually, and other benefits that are listed on this sheet and in your staff report. Implementation of the project would result in some significant unavoidable impacts. The city will adopt a statement of overriding considerations, and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program will be in place throughout all phases of the project. The approving ordinance and resolutions have been revised to reflect the errata prepared in the FEIR. The errata responds to 2 late communication letters. Neither of the letters provided evidence requiring recirculation of the EIR, nor further environmental review of the city. Staff recommends approving an amendment to the site's general plan and zoning designation from C4 to MUS. Recommends approving development agreement, certifying the environmental impact report, adopting the statement of overriding considerations, and approving the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. The project applicant and consultant team are available if you have any specific questions. Thank you. I'm going to provide some further clarification and introduce Gina Gusar, also working on this project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I am going to read into the record the changes. Inadvertently, some of the documents were holdovers from the continued meeting that occurred on July 12th, July 16th, 2019. So for Exhibit A, which is the EIR resolution, there were changes made to mention that the meeting was continued. There were revisions made to dates. We had 2018 versus 2019 listed. Some of the lettering was off, and we revised that and corrected that. And finally, we eliminated at the end a reference to trip caps. And that is the entirety of Exhibit A. For Exhibit A2, which is the findings of fact, there was one addition made to reference late letters that were received to the project. One was received on June 21st and one on July 12th. So we mentioned those letters as well as the preparation of errata to the final FEIR. That concludes the revisions to the findings of fact. So for Exhibit 3, which is the resolution for the general plan amendment, we made revisions to reference the continued hearing. We also eliminated references to specific parking requirements and stated that they would be per the municipal code. And we made revisions to reference the exhibit of the general plan map amendment, and the exhibit number had changed between the planning commission hearing and the city council hearing. So that was the entirety of the revisions. For Exhibit C, the ordinance approving the zone change and development agreement, the revisions include a reference to the errata that was prepared in response to the late letters received. And let's see. And that was the entirety of that revision. Exhibit C2, the zoning map amendment, we revised the exhibit number. So that concludes that revision. For Exhibit C1, the development agreement, we revised Section F, and that was eliminating the reference to specific trip caps. And that was the only revision for that document. Exhibit A3, sorry, that's out of order. That's the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. There was a revision regarding mitigation measure K1, and that was a slight revision to the language to clarify the transportation demand management plan. That was the only revision. And finally, bear with me, there was the development agreement. I did not, do I have that in my pile here? So, did I do that? Okay, then, thank you. That is the entirety of the revisions.
And
thank you.
copies of the revised documents are available for the public on the table outside.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, anything else that we need to? Okay. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
It was.
Has any written communication been received regarding the public hearing?
There has been.
Okay. The public hearing is continued. Mr. Mitnick, cool, you already made the presentation. Okay, it's open for public input. I don't know if the applicant, you guys would like to speak? Yes, Mr. Rose?
Hi, guys. I'm very upset that I did not get the memo on the dress code, so I applaud you for that. Pardon me? I was going to say, I need one, Don. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Alex Rose, Senior Vice President of Development with Continental Development Corporation. On behalf of our partner and ourselves, Smart Ventures, and Continental, we want to thank the city staff, city attorney, city's consultant team for its work over a long period of time getting the project to this stage. I'm not going to go back through what Ethan reported, so just want to note a couple of things in terms of context and some things that I think are important to us, important to the city regarding the project. Next page. So the Rosecrans corridor has really evolved over the last 80 years from its prior industrial and vacant land to the city's premier mixed-use center. This is a shot from 1940 looking east, looking west to east. Next slide. So we fast forward to 1976, and what you can see in this aerial is that Continental Park is starting to develop, but clearly, even 40 years ago, it was still largely an industrial track. Next. So some 25 years ago, while a fair amount of the industrial infrastructure and improvements were still in place, it's pretty clear by looking at both sides of Rosecrans as well that the area has really evolved into a mixed-use commercial corridor, and that trend has taken place. So that brings us 25 years forward to today. So CDC and MAR tied up the Air Products site about 15 years ago with the vision of ultimately completing that transformation that I just showed you along the corridor. It was part of the overall development that ultimately became both Plaza El Segundo and the Point. The Air Products site has now been cleared of its industrial heritage. It's been environmentally remediated, and we've had closure by the appropriate regulators. So now the property is really ready to take its place as the final piece of the Rosecrans corridor frontage. As Ethan explained, the application before you is essentially an extension of Continental Park, taking the zoning that has enveloped Continental Park on the north side of Rosecrans and simply continuing it west until it touches the point. As Ethan explained, the project contemplates the development of similar office, retail, dining, potentially production facilities that are found on both sides of Rosecrans. It's accommodating an expanding spectrum of users in tech, media, professional services, financial services, and interestingly enough, what we are seeing, which is a resurgent aerospace and defense sector. All in state-of-the-art facilities that are designed to help those particular users compete for and retain talent, which is a high priority for all of the users that we talk to throughout our holdings and throughout the market. As staff noted, there was a couple of proactive steps that we took to ensure that the development fits seamlessly into the Rosecrans corridor and was responsive to the city's need for development that can attract and retain high-paying jobs. Even before submitting an application, we undertook traffic studies to understand what the impact of this project would be on the corridor, taking a look at 34 local intersections. Based on those studies, and again, before the application, we voluntarily downsized the project below what would be normally available to us by right under mixed use south, reducing both height and the maximum square footage. The application and the CEQA studies covered not only the base case that was depicted in Ethan's presentation, but a number of other iterations that all fit within those studies and within those impacts. Purpose there was to give us the necessary flexibility to respond to the market quickly and put users in who want to be here without the attendant and necessary and statutory delays that are associated with having to go back and modify discretionary approvals. So it goes without saying, after all these years, we are eager to begin construction. We're appreciative of the city's hard work on our behalf. We thank everybody for that support. The entire CDC, MAR, and consultant team is here if you have any questions. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Any other public input?
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Rebecca Davis. I represent Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility. We urge the city to decline to certify the EIR for this project because it fails to comply with CEQA. We previously did submit written comments, including expert comments, and tonight I'd just like to highlight a few of the reasons why we believe the EIR is not sufficient. First, the project has significant unmitigated impacts from toxic soil contamination that have not been fully mitigated. The Department of Toxic Substances Control filed written comments raising concerns about the site contamination and recommended preliminary endangerment assessment and voluntary cleanup plan, but the final EIR rejected these mitigation measures without any analysis. Construction workers are often at the highest risk from these chemicals since they'll be in direct contact with the soil and the soil vapor during project construction, and nearby residents may also be exposed to these contaminants. CEQA requires implementation of all feasible mitigation measures, and these measures are clearly feasible, and the FEIR provides no reason that the measures would be infeasible. Second, neither the draft or final EIR contain a health risk assessment. The EIR states that no HRA is required because construction will only be over an 18-month period. But the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment guidance makes clear that all short-term projects lasting at least 2 months be evaluated for cancer risk to nearby sensitive receptors. OEHA also recommends a health risk assessment of projects' operational emissions for projects that will be in place for more than 6 months. The project will last much longer than 2 or 6 months, and therefore an HRA should have been prepared. We submitted written expert comments from the organization Soil, Water, Air Protection Enterprise, or SWAPE, who conducted a detailed HRA and determined that construction and operation of the project would create a cancer risk of at residential receptors located 300 meters from the project of 38 per million, which is almost 4 times the significance threshold of 10 per million. Even if the EIR wasn't required to include an HRA, SWAPE's analysis is substantial evidence that the project may have a significant impact on human health, and therefore it was required to be disclosed and mitigated. Health risks can often be mitigated by requiring low-emission construction equipment, such as CARB Tier 4 equipment, limiting idling times, limiting opacity, and other measures. This significant health risk must be analyzed and mitigated in a revised EIR. Finally, the FEIR fails to address indoor air quality. We submitted, in addition, the expert comments of Francis Offerman, who is one of the world's leading experts on indoor air quality. He concluded that the project is likely to expose future workers to a cancer risk from indoor air pollution of 18.4 per million. Again, this is almost twice the South Coast Air Quality Management District's CEQA significance threshold of 10 per million. The EIR fails to analyze this impact entirely, and a revised EIR is required to analyze and mitigate this impact. So to conclude, we request that a revised EIR be prepared and recirculated for public review to address the issues I spoke about tonight, as well as additional issues in our written comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. City Attorney, anything to say on the matter?
No, the CEQA consultants, and if the council would like to hear from our consultants to respond to those comments, they can. They've put into the record an errata to respond to the letter that came in, but it really should come from our CEQA consultants if they're here.
Yeah, let's hear from the CEQA consultants on those 3 points, if you would, please.
Hello, my name is Jenny Mayo. I'm with EcoTierra Consulting, and we did respond to the errata letter, and the health risk that is on site is a non-issue area. An indoor CEQA analysis of indoor air quality is a non-CEQA issue analysis as well. And we have our health risk assessment that we actually prepared to make sure that we had no problems with the particular site. So we actually did the study even though it's not required by CEQA. And our specialist is here and can discuss the health risk assessment itself.
Hi, I'm
Thank you.
Lakshmi Jairam from Rambo. We did prepare a health risk assessment for the construction and operation of the project. We first reviewed the analysis that was done by SWAPE, and it highly overestimated the risks because they were conservative in terms of both emission estimates as well as dispersion modeling. They had assumed that all of the particulate matter emissions from operations were diesel particulate, whereas the emissions consist of gasoline vehicles, there'll be natural gas emissions from heating, as well as gasoline emissions from landscape equipment. Also, they used a screening dispersion modeling, air screen, which is a very conservative way of doing the modeling, and it predicts the worst case impacts. It assumes that the wind blows only in one particular direction. So we actually did a more detailed health risk assessment using AirMod, which is a US EPA approved dispersion model, and we followed South Coast AQMD guidelines for the health risk assessment. And we have found that the risk is less than 10 in a million, which is the threshold for AQMD. And this was submitted as an attachment to the errata, our report. If there are any questions, I can address those.
Any council questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Rose.
Let me also add that the DTSC does not actually have jurisdiction over this property. It was the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the prior owner, Air Products, remediated the property in accordance with Regional Water Quality Control Board requirements. and oversight, and the board issued their no further action letter.
Thank you, sir. Any other public input? May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Council discussion.
I had a question for Mr. Edwards. Your slide presentation, maybe I misunderstood you. I thought referred to a vacant lot, and you showed a gray area to the west on Rosecrans of the media center here. What is that there, and what's a use of that? It was the colored picture along Rosecrans. Yeah, that's it. So, is there an extra lot there to the west of the project?
Point parking.
And that's point parking. That's what I wanted to figure out. Is that being used for point parking now?
Yes.
And that would remain for point parking?
Yes.
Would it provide any parking for the new project also, or
No.
not? Okay, thanks. That answers my question.
Okay, any other council discussion? All right. City Attorney will read the ordinance by title only.
Mayor and council, there are two resolutions and an ordinance, and we'll take the resolutions first, which will be for adoption. The ordinance will be for introduction. So the first is a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Segundo certifying the environmental impact report for the Beach Cities Media Campus project, making findings of fact and adopting a statement of overriding considerations and adopting a mitigation monitoring and reporting program is ready for adoption.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
I think those are 4-0. Yep.
Next, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Segundo approving general plan amendment and general plan map amendment, modifying the land use designation of the 6.93 acre property at 2021 Rosecrans Avenue from Commercial Center C4 to Urban Mixed Use South MUS. Is ready for adoption.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
And last is an ordinance approving zone change and zoning map amendment number ZC 1701 and development agreement number DA 1702 for the Beach Cities Media Campus project at 2021 Rosecrans Avenue, and this is ready for introduction.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Just an introduction.
Introduction. Yeah.
I would love to introduce this.
Okay, so then this will be brought back for potential second read and adoption at the council's August 20th regular council meeting.
All right, thank you. Exciting project. I know you've been waiting a long time on that project, and we're really excited to see the studio and all the other ancillary development that happens there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is a staff presentation on homelessness activities update.
Trying to think.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, Lieutenant Dan Kim. And I first want to get started off with, I'll go over what the homeless plan is and what we've done, steps taken to achieve all of our goals. But before I do that, I would like to introduce some people in the audience that have been waiting patiently. We have recently contracted with the Department of Mental Health to get a clinician to ride with our officers to help people, not just homeless, but people having a mental crisis. And so their skills are invaluable. So if I could, Supervisor Stephanie LaMarche from the Department of Mental Health. Nicole, did she make it? On her way, she's just okay. Okay, well, apparently she was handling another call, so she's late. And then Tina Webb in the corner there. We're very lucky to have them, and we're happy to have them here. So we just wanted to introduce them to the council. Okay?
That's great. Thank you for all your help. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and, well, there is a PowerPoint in the computer. Okay, so just a little back history on this. It was last year that council approved a plan, a homeless plan that we had, and it was created using grant funds with the services of a homeless coordinator. I'm sorry, could you? Thank you. Again, more background information. So we've been participating in the Greater LA Homeless Count for the past 4 years at least, and those are the numbers that we were looking at. Last year we were at 14, this year we were at 19. We did our own independent count with some of our officers, and in 2019 we came up with 15. So that just shows the variation on what these numbers can be at any given time. This is just a snapshot of one evening, is basically what it is. So those are the 7 goals developed in the homeless plan. You don't have to read those all at once because I'm going to go through them one by one. Okay? Thank you. Okay, goal 1, to ensure resident safety and well-being by supporting the police department, fire department, city staff in responding appropriately, safely, and effectively to persons who are experiencing homelessness in El Segundo. Tried to make this a very simple graph. The supporting actions: increase the availability of a mental health clinician, which is completed. We've received the clinician's assistance last month. Create and disseminate homeless protocols and resource guide for city staff. We accomplished that. We created a homeless resource guide that we've handed out to city staff, Public Works, the library, and it will be up on our website shortly. We had some technical difficulties with getting it up there, but we have accomplished that. Provided mental health first aid training to city staff. We've done that with the Department of Mental Health. We actually had a meeting with city staff in council chambers explaining the homeless situation, the mental conditions that city staff may run into. For example, if you're a library staff member and a homeless individual walks in and has a condition, what to look out for. And that's the same for 1D, involves city staff in cross-training. Goal 2, to help residents and businesses to respond safely and effectively to individuals who are homeless in El Segundo. 2A, offer safety assessments to businesses and residents to ID ways to prevent crime. We continually do that on social media, to try and educate the public. 2B, develop resource card to be distributed to business residents. Once again, that has been created. And develop educational programs that can be presented to the community. We accomplished that. We actually held a community meeting in council chambers to discuss the homeless situation in El Segundo, what they can do. And also we have monthly meetings with security business professionals in town, and we did a presentation for them as well. Goal 3, to share responsibility for addressing homelessness with neighboring cities in order to expand permanent solutions to homelessness. Action 1, build regional services including expanded mental health assistance, coordinated law enforcement, identification of shelter resources, and solutions to housing affordability. This is in progress. We have completed most of those. The part that clearly we are struggling with is trying to find a solution to affordable housing. That may be beyond our control. So that's why we listed that as in progress. Establish a working group with adjacent cities to collaborate on immediate actions. We do meet with neighboring cities on what their homeless plan is and what they are doing. We actually share the mental health clinician with several South-based cities, so we collaborate together on that. And then promote job opportunities for persons at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness. That's continuing. Situation in the comments I listed, we have actually taken 14 homeless individuals off of the streets of El Segundo and taken them to shelters where they can receive services. So that's not easy to do, but we were able to do that. Goal 4, to support faith groups to effectively help individuals experiencing homelessness in El Segundo. It's an in progress. We've reached out to the faith groups in town. We're actually meeting with several of them tomorrow. We've established at least one food drive with a church in town who provides food not to the homeless, but to El Segundo residents on the verge of becoming homeless. So, and that's part of our plan too, is if you're teetering on the edge, let's see if we can help you out. So we worked with a faith group to do that and update the list of local homeless ministries. Goal 5, to reduce homelessness among El Segundo residents. Goal 1, engage schools, faith, organizations, and other groups to identify residents who are at risk of homelessness. Once again, I talked about one instance where we, with the food pantry. One thing that we are also going to do, school year is starting, and we have school resource officers. We want our school resource officers to not only look for possible students that are homeless, the indicators of possible homeless students, but also talk to our teachers. And if they notice someone they think, this student may be homeless because whether their clothes are not perfectly clean, what have you, and try and identify a student that way that may otherwise go undetected. So that's another thing that we're doing. Connect residents to prevention services through nonprofit agencies with expertise and funding for homeless prevention. Once again, we put up information on social media platforms. Disseminate information about how to reach services through libraries, city websites, schools, and faith communities. That's ongoing. We continually do that, so I didn't think that would be complete because we're always doing it. Goal 6, to improve city responses to homelessness by obtaining additional resources to address homelessness in El Segundo and by creating efficiencies in the use of current resources. Identify and track city resources that are used to address homelessness. The only department we would probably deal with would be Public Works. We have come across homeless encampments where there's a large amount of property that has to be disposed of. We have worked with Public Works to do that, and so we've just developed a system where Public Works, if you have to do that, if we ask you to do that, let us know, well, how many personnel did it take? How long did it take? Did you have to use a truck, 2 trucks, those type of things, using city resources for that. And apply for Measure H funds to supplement city funds that are already being used to address homelessness. I put completed. We did not apply for additional Measure H funding. However, South Bay has received funding for homeless outreach teams. They're called HOST. Redondo Beach manages that. And so we, in addition to what we do with officers on duty, we have officers that go out to do homeless outreach on overtime, utilizing this funding. Those are outreach efforts only to help people, and it's not for enforcement. They don't arrest the homeless on this detail. And the final goal, to support the availability of regional housing opportunities in the South Bay for populations at risk of homelessness. These are both in progress. Work with contiguous cities to identify the need for senior housing for local residents and collaborate to identify innovative approaches, resources, and locations. And then review the conformance of current city policies to state housing mandates and adopt any required changes. These are the tough ones. Finding housing for the homeless is difficult. It's not easy. There's not always beds available, but we keep plugging away at it. Okay? Moving forward, some of the things that we're doing, we've recently established a beach patrol detail to address homeless beach camping. I don't know if you're aware, but there are homeless down at the beach, and sometimes they're hard to get to with our vehicles, but we've acquired new vehicles that makes it easier for us to go down there and address that. Continue homeless outreach efforts utilizing community liaison officers and host grant funding. Staff permitting, we would love to add some additional officers dedicated to outreach. We have 2 now, depending on staffing levels. If we could get more, I think we could be even more effective and continue to collaborate our efforts with surrounding jurisdictions. Okay, I know I went a little fast on that. If there's any questions?
Thank you, Lieutenant Kim. Good stuff. At the end of the day, if you had to point to one or two metrics that we could use to really gauge success, these are great activities. Are we looking to reduce the number of homeless? I know we've gotten 14 off the streets already. But what are the true indicators of success with this program in your mind?
I think one big one would be the number of people that we do get off the streets of El Segundo. It's always changing. I mean, we could take 10 in one day, which would be clearly fantastic, yet it seems like it could increase overnight to where there's more. So the fact that we were able to help 14 individuals alone, now how far they went in the process, we don't know, but the fact that we know we definitely impacted the lives of 14 people, I think that's a fantastic metric.
That's great. Do you have any sense of the 14 that were able to take our assistance, or they wanted to take our assistance? How many did we approach that didn't?
Many more that we approach don't want our help. I think it's basically they don't trust the police. They may not trust the government. And so oftentimes the community leads officers, it takes numerous contacts. Hi, how you doing? How you doing today? You know, try to develop that bond or at least some form of trust before they will sometimes even talk to you. So that's why when I mentioned we helped 14 people, it's not easy. Most people don't want our help, and they won't even talk to us. But if we keep seeing them over and over, our officers know you need to develop a rapport, because it's not going to happen overnight. It may take 100 times of saying hello, but it could be that 101st time to where that person changes their mind and says, yeah, I think I want some help. So.
One more question. And now with the clinicians that are helping us, do we have a sense of how many people that are homeless have some form of mental illness that really need help in that regard, as opposed to being full capacity, mentally, intellectually, but just don't want the help?
I'd have to ask the clinicians to get their expertise on that one, but from the homeless calls that I've responded to and that I've seen, a high number of them have some type of either a mental illness and or a drug issue.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Lieutenant? Yes.
Thank you for your report. Are you working with the homeless coordinator at the Council of Governments, the COG?
South Bay City of Governments?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've attended some of their meetings in the past. Unfortunately, we haven't attended all of them. I know one's coming up September that we plan on attending. So we do. So yes.
Seems like that would be a forum to exchange ideas across the region here on what's working, et cetera. And then on the number's elusive. It's a snapshot in time of annually, and it moves around a little bit, but I think the number's also influenced by the methodology on how the survey is taken, and I think that's why we repeated it here and actually did obtain a lower number for 2019 through a more thorough understanding of who's really homeless out there rather than just an assumption of who is. So I think that number gets influenced by the methodology and many other factors. But it's fairly low here. And you look across the South Bay, many higher numbers. So the COG has got time and effort on this and grants, et cetera, to help. So I hope we attend those meetings and participate in that exchange.
I know there's a meeting next month that we plan on attending.
Saw that.
I just have one question. So what do you want from the residents to, how do you want the residents to help you, and so that we can continue this program and enhance it? So what from the residents are you looking for to help you facilitate this program?
Well, several things. If they see a situation involving a homeless individual, whether it's they've set up a camp or anything, call us. We'll go out there and talk to them And that could be the person that is at their last end, and once how are you? And we can help them. I would say that. And also get involved. For example, as I mentioned, we did a food drive to help people on the verge of becoming homeless. We're going to be doing another one come closer to the holidays. I would love if the residents would help contribute food, canned goods, what have you. That way we can assist the food pantry with that.
I think the messaging really needs to be, when you call the police about a homeless person, we're not looking to arrest the person, we're looking to help the person. I think changing that message out to the public will really help in helping, ensuring that the residents do contact you and that there's outreach.
Yes, that is our primary goal when we contact the homeless. It's not to arrest them right on the spot. It's to be compassionate and reach out to them and see if we can help them long term.
Thank you.
Before you step away, I think your third clinician is here.
Can I introduce Nicole Watson
Yeah.
from the Department of Mental Health?
And did they want to say any words about what they're seeing out there and how it's been, or?
Would you like to? Come on up. Come on up.
I apologize for being late. I was working in another city. You're wanting me to address kind of what I've noticed in the short time that I've been in El Segundo, is that correct? So I spent 2 weeks here in El Segundo, the first 2 weeks that we were bringing them on into the Beach Cities Met team. And I got a really great overview of the city, what its makeup is, where some of the most frequented spots are of homeless people. And I think that so far, El Segundo is doing a really great job. There aren't many homeless people here in compared to other places. And the two officers that are working with the Met, with myself and the other clinician, the lead officers, they're really great at establishing these relationships, which, like Lieutenant Dan said, really is the key to helping individuals get off the street, because there are a lot of barriers that we don't even know about that they experience. And that relationship and rapport building is really the best part to encouraging and helping somebody to gain access to resources. And I think one of the barriers that we are facing is just limitations. There's not enough. The demand is so high, and I know that that's a problem that's sometimes a lot greater than what we're able to accomplish. But I think so far the flow officers are doing a really great job, and they have a really great leader trying to kind of pave the way to help figure it all out. And to also address another question, I think there was a question about what's the percentage of people who have mental health issues that are homeless, and I think it varies. Some days we may see everybody has a mental health issue that day. Other days it's someone who just fell on hard luck, they lost a job. But it's a combination of multiple factors that contribute to somebody's homelessness. And, obviously the state of our economy and rent and housing prices and just the lack of housing, that always contributes to something too. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfect.
Thanks.
But thank you.
Hopefully you don't mind if I close this out. Mayor, I wanted to comment on one thing you asked, and how do we measure success? And we didn't rehearse this, and so he didn't have this information ahead of time. But what I would say is we measure success by minimizing the impact that homelessness has on our community. And I think the last time I presented, I gave the 6-month update, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we did have a pretty significant decrease in homelessness-related calls for service. Candidly, we're not going to eliminate homelessness. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's a societal problem that millions of dollars are being thrown at, and it just continues to get worse year after year. But by the efforts of our officers, Lieutenant Kim, trying to deal with this on a daily basis, and even when we can't make placement, it's educating these individuals and letting them know what they're doing, how that has an impact on the surrounding community. For example, people who are panhandling in front of Ralph's may or may not understand that what they're doing is causing concern for some residents of society. So we know that homelessness in and of itself is not a crime. And we understand that every day we go out and deal with these individuals. But there are still many things we can do to help try to minimize the impact that it has. The second thing was the host grant that he mentioned that Redondo Beach manages. That's actually distributed by the LA County Chiefs of Police. So we actually talk about that on a monthly basis, and we do keep track of what's working, and it's by region in the county. And so we do report back on a monthly basis as to what each region's doing and how they're spending that money and what's working and what's not working. And so from that higher 30,000 foot level, that gets distributed down through the areas, through Redondo Beach, into the individual host elements. There is that definite feedback loop that's in place in the County of Los Angeles. And then I'll close with this. Lieutenant Kim, new in his role, relatively speaking, since January's community engagement lieutenant, has done a fantastic job in spearheading this. And then there's two people who probably by design did not want to be introduced and probably are mad at me now for about to bring them up, but our two community lead officers, Officer Lemus and Officer Deere, standing in the back. Raise your hands, guys. Always guys that don't like the limelight, but they're really our point people out there dealing with the homeless. And it is a very, very, very difficult job. You're dealing with people who have all kinds of communicable diseases, all kinds of things and issues and mental illness and whatever. And these guys are caring, compassionate, they're very thoughtful in what they do, and they do a fantastic job. And I just think it was worthy of a couple seconds just to acknowledge the great work that they're doing, amongst many other things that they're doing. But they take personal pride in helping to manage this issue. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant. Scott.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd just like to chime in a little bit. You may recall in my previous local government experience as a county administrator in Northern California, this was one of the more profound issues that Sutter County, where I worked, we had to deal with. And the numbers, you could add 2 zeros to those numbers to the largest city, Yuba City. The number of homeless up there has risen significantly in the last decade, and it consumed our time, the Board of Supervisors' time and my time as county administrator. And I will share this with you, and I've had some discussions with our police chief on this and a little bit with the department heads. As a city, we have to be proactive ahead of the curve because this can flip on a community very fast. And all of a sudden, your numbers will go from 20 to 200, and if not more, especially since we have a beach and other public places. Because of the Boise decision, individuals have a right to sleep. And they can sleep right out in front of City Hall. They can sleep just about any public place. So we'll keep working and keep our eye on the ball, but we'll be ahead of it. And like the chief said, it's almost impossible to completely eliminate it, but I'll spend more time with the chief and our department heads. But we have a pretty good sense as to what causes homelessness and how to manage it. It is a management issue. I just wanted to share that with you, having had that experience. And the partnership with LA County cannot be underscored. And they're left dealing with the really hard homelessness issues. So we look forward to maintaining a good partnership with them. So thank you for allowing me to have these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Thank you, Chief. And thank you, Lieutenant Kim. It's great that you helped 14 people get off the street. Appreciate that. Yeah, I know we all do. All right, moving on to item 10, Richmond Street Field Improvement Project Status. And I assume Meredith is going to come up and present on this.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me for this presentation tonight. This is a brief update on the Richmond Street Field Improvement Project. And some pertinent details as we go into the discussion. Some reminders here that in this current fiscal year's budget, originally we had allocated $350,000 to this project, and at mid-year, another $120,000 was added to this project for a total of $470,000. Richmond Street Field is located just next to the Plunge and Richmond Street Elementary School and is owned by the El Segundo School District. Through our joint use agreement, the city maintains the field and operates the field outside of the school hours, so we schedule all of the user groups onto that field, and any open field is available for general public use. Once these dollars were allocated, city staff and El Segundo Unified staff started collaborating to determine what the appropriate scope and design would be of the project. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about what that was. And then during that process, El Segundo Unified School District was also developing a project over on the corner of Virginia and Palm at their TLC location. And through discussions, this ended up in the City School Affairs Committee, which is a committee that's comprised of the top administrators of both organizations, the city manager and the school superintendent, as well as 2 city council members and 2 school board members. And over the course of several months, there was discussion about a joint use opportunity with their project, as well as a cost-sharing arrangement. So I have a couple photos here to show everybody which location we're really talking about. This is Richmond Field. This is the playground here of the elementary school. This is the TLC, the old TLC building location, which has now been demolished. This is a construction zone today. Mariposa on this side, Virginia and Palm. And this blue outline shows the current construction site for the school's project. Their TLC remodel is going to include new buildings for their school, as well as a parking lot, and it will be going into what's now grass space, or usable field space, and making the softball field a little bit smaller. And then the site plan, there it is. Here's the project location. And this is the parking lot that we are talking about, entering into an agreement with for shared space between the school and general public, which would basically serve the customers and the users of the park space and the softball field. So the initial scope was thought to primarily focus on the softball field itself, and it included accessible pathways to and around the field from then street parking locations, new fencing for the dugouts and the backstop, new spectator bleachers, and we are also exploring the idea of installing a new restroom facility for the use of the park users. Through further discussions, and I will turn it over to the committee members here if they want to add anything, the recommended revised scope and plan of action moving forward is to actually hold off on the field improvements, explore restroom access during the plunge renovation for field users, and fund 70%, which is about $310,000, for the new parking lot for the city's shared use of the parking lot on the corner. The 70-30 split correlates to the proportional share of the usage of the field. So the city maintains and operates the field about 70% of the time, and the school-related activities take up about 30% of the time. If we do decide to move forward, if the council does concur with the committee's direction here, we will be coming forward with a formal agreement stating these terms. And with that being said, with the original budget of $470,000, there is an excess of $160,000 potentially to be reallocated to another project or not used and saved for another day. So with that, I turn it over to discussion and questions.
Do you know if the city has a history of sharing costs for improvement of facilities and sites owned by the local school district?
In fact, just today realized we're having some construction questions out there right now. The city installed the outdoor sports lighting that is currently on Richmond Street Field. So we've worked in partnership with them before to fund projects on school district property.
Not too long ago, the school district passed a general obligation bond to improve its facilities and sites over the coming decades. And I know in opposing that bond for the ballot, that they needed to outline specific improvements that they were going to make at their individual school sites. Was this listed in that work? And if so, was it deemed to be shared with the city? I'm just not sure why the city would contribute to work on the school district lands when they're sitting on more than $100 million specifically to improve their sites and facilities, and we don't have that kind of money down here.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that this particular project, the conversation is about whether or not that parking lot can be used for general public and city users while the field is open.
Well, it should be, but this is about who's going to pay for it. The agency that's got all the bucks for that kind of thing or the one that doesn't.
Don, Scott and I, you probably know Scott and I are on that committee, the city schools, and we just looked at it in a similar fashion as the money that's being allocated towards the plunge, which was based on use allocation, and we know that we use the fields and we'll use a public parking lot more than they will, and so the 70-30 reflects that. So that's where we came up with the logic on that.
It doesn't make any common sense to me, given the circumstances that exist out there with available funds to do that. Was that brought through the council here or just decided by the subcommittee?
Well, we're voting on it, and now I think, aren't we?
This is just the information I
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I look at it like this. Regardless of who has money, it's who's actually using the resource. And it's just similar to us not wanting to fund things that we can't justify to our constituents or taxpayers. They have the same issue, funding things that are outside of their domain. And if we're using the facility more than they're actually using the facility, why wouldn't we help pay for it?
It just doesn't make any common sense to me to proceed this way, and that's why I wondered if we had a history of doing that. The citizens here, the voters, have, given the school district tens of millions of dollars to take care of these projects. What is our source?
Actually, historically, I don't know if it was while you were on council or not, but this city gave as much as $1 million annually to the school district. That has since stopped.
But
There's actually less funds going to the school district than in the past.
There's a lot of money going to school district for in-kind services right now. I haven't seen a report on it in years, and it's not as much as it used to be. Because when I was on council, the first 4-year sentence, there was $400,000 in cash going and another $800,000 or so in in-kind services. Those in-kind services, some of them are still going. This is about facilities and site improvements, and that's exactly what they got their bond passed to take care of. So I don't know why they don't take care of it, and instead we pay the lion's share of it.
Don, can I ask you a question? So if you live in that area, or if, let's just say that the plunge was going to be constructed brand new today, would we approve the plunge being constructed brand new today with 0 parking for the use of it? I think it's a rhetorical question because the answer is no. And then we have a sports field that services youth softball, youth soccer, youth lacrosse, and is open to the public when youth programs are not paying to use it, even if it is at a reduced rate to the city. And again, you have a field that can house hundreds of children or participants with no parking but street parking. So I believe the mayor and I, through these discussions at the subcommittee level, looked at it from if I'm a resident across the street and I am heavily impacted by the city's use of that property and how we program that property, us as stewards of the city money and trying to raise the quality of life for a resident that lives there, as well as raising the quality of the use of that asset by the residents that use that asset, it made logical sense to look at the time periods and percentages of use, and the city uses that field 70% of the time. So as I mean, the school district can build that parking lot without our help. And when TLC gets done with pickup, they can lock that parking lot up. And all of the users on the weekend, all of the users in the evening time for practices and such would not have access to that parking lot.
That's what the JPA is all about. It's already in existence to provide that access for folks once the school's done with its sites for the day. So, I mean, we've been doing that right along for the last 20 years or more. Just like to get some more information on this and see the minutes of the subcommittee that talked about this and see the listing from the school district of the projects that they promised the people they'd fund if they passed the bonds, and see what the status of this project is on that list. And then understand what source are we going to take this money out of. That's enough.
Maybe we could not build a pool at Acacia. This field gets much more use than that. Anyway, Scott, could you serve up the MOU that we have, the JPA with the school district, that outlines there's a laundry list of items where we share resources with each other, to Councilman Brand? So are we voting on this in the future, Meredith, or what's
Well, the goal of this discussion this evening was to inform the entire council of the discussions that we're having at the city school level. As part of the budget adoption on the original project, the scope has significantly changed. At least that's the direction that we're moving in. And so we felt that it was prudent that the entire council weigh in and probably give direction as a whole.
And the major change is that we are not going to move forward with the fields because we're waiting for assessment of the plunge. So, is that correct?
Well, the bathroom is related to the plunge. While we were having these discussions, if we do the pathways and the field improvements, we'd have to have a bathroom. That would be ADA. And so the thought we had was, let's wait till we do the plunge and potentially be able to access a bathroom externally and internally from the plunge using the same plumbing, rather than having to build a whole nother bathroom. But in the meantime, as Scott and I know, coaching out there, that field is a disaster in terms of flooding and irrigation. So let's fix that now while we figure out the longer term play. Is that a fair assessment?
Right, I think so. The desire of the city school committee members here would be to take the $160,000 and improve the turf and irrigation, assess that.
So, Mr. Mitnick, maybe you get with Meredith and figure out how this is going to come before us again? I mean, what's the timing on this?
Or do you just need direction to say to move forward?
Well, it has to come back to the council in a formal agreement, and so that is being drafted right now. We wanted to get the consensus of the council, or at least hear the questions and the discussion, so that we could address those before, obviously bringing an agreement in front of the council that is a cost-sharing agreement that binds the city to these funds. So as far as the school district and the timing, I mean, the project is underway, and so I don't know that they have given us a deadline on this necessarily. I think it's up for council to.
Scott?
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so I'm in week 6. I don't necessarily know the whole history, but this is already in motion to go forward, correct? And this was an update? So it's the council's prerogative to decide, do you want to keep going forward? And while you're doing that, I've been directed to get some information for the council. I can do that. Staff will provide that information to the council. So if this project's in motion, and this was a necessary step tonight, you decide you want to keep going and do the project with the cost sharing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
that's how I see it.
I think to Dr. Brandt's point, I mean, I don't know why we're not voting on it. We're talking about spending quite a bit of money. So I don't understand why this is an information-only thing tonight.
I don't believe it has to be an informational. I mean, it can.
Wasn't the money already allocated in the budget?
Oh, it's,
Yes, it says in here.
well, the agreement's
we
going
did
to,
it
the
like-
agreement needs to be approved by council, and if we're going to be for an expenditure of excess of $300,000, and that agreement hopefully the details of that will be worked out in about 2 weeks.
Okay. So we could see it in the last meeting in August, or
Depending
early
on
September?
people's schedules this time of year, as far as the district, could be the second meeting in August, but should be like the first meeting in September at the latest.
I think before we get into the language of the agreement, because given our experience with the aquatics facility, that took much longer than we anticipated. I think we need to know materially whether or not we have consensus on the dais tonight about whether or not to move forward as was proposed. Because why spin our wheels on an agreement and language if we don't even have a consensus up here? So,
Well, Mayor, it's your call. I would note I've reviewed the agreement. It looks relatively straightforward. There are 2 points that I'd want to talk to the district's legal counsel about, and I think those could be resolved relatively quickly. But I leave it to your judgment whether I sit back and wait or.
well, Scott, so Scott, if Mark thinks he's reasonably assured that this could come back the last meeting in August, are you also going to have some additional information per Dr. Brand's request?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's hold off until then to vote on it, I would say.
Understood. We'll be
You
ready.
guys okay with that? Dr. Brand?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with the project. I'm sure it needs to be done. It benefits everybody. I'm talking about who's going to pay for it.
Yeah, we got you. Loud and clear. Thank you. All righty. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee appointments. We had some great interviews, and we are appointing 6 people to the Arts and Culture Committee. They are Jeff Kaysen, who is serving as the chair. His term expires June 30th, 2022. Natalie Strong expires June 30th, 2022. Michael Kresge, also expiring the same date. Maureen Kingsley, expiring the same date. And Mark Knight, expiring also June 30th, 2022. Congratulations, and thank you for volunteering your time. All right, moving on to, we're going to do the art walk after reports. Is that right, Scott? That's what we said, right? Okay, thanks. All right, moving on to reports. City Clerk.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. City Treasurer. I don't see Krista or Dino. All right. City Council members. Council Member Nickel.
Pass tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Brand.
Just like to thank everybody for the aloha spirit tonight, the E-team, and the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the green Hawaiian shirt. Sorry, mine is at the cleaners. Mayor Pro Tem Perstuck.
Yeah, just a couple things. So I just want to thank Chevron again for keeping the El Segundo Beach clean. I was down there this weekend, and there was many trash cans down there. And my sister-in-law, who went into the toilet, said she'd never seen a cleaner toilet at the beach. So thank you to Chevron for keeping our beaches clean. I also wanted to let people know that we will be installing a gate at the corner of Acacia and California and that breezeway into onto Imperial. So there will be a gate installed there. We did a survey to the residents around that area, and we took a vote, and they all suggested that we close that entryway. Then I want to remind everybody and thank the library for we've been hosting a lot of new outreach programs for the teens, and I know that we've been a lot of feedback from a lot of participation, and I just want to remind everybody to do that. And I also want to thank the Chamber and the AC Hotel. They opened up this last week. We had an opening there with the owners, and they're very excited to be in our town. It's a beautiful hotel with a rooftop bar. It's a lovely place to go in the evening to catch the sunset or just to watch the planes come in. And they're just very excited to be in our town, and we welcome them to our town.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I had the privilege and honor to be invited on a delegation trip to China last week, similar to my predecessor, Suzanne Fuentes. It was an incredible experience. I've always wanted to go to China anyway, and so I took it upon myself to actually fund the trip myself. The city, nor the Chinese People's Association for Government Friendship, I think is the term. They're not coming out of pocket either. I felt strongly about that. And what an incredible experience. I mean, I came back with an absolute renewed love for our country and the freedoms that we often take for granted. Beijing alone, if you've been there, cameras everywhere you look. Second most, I think, videotaped city behind London, of all places. But I had the opportunity to go to Beijing, to go to Chongqing, to go to Guangzhou, to go to Shanghai, to go to Chengdu, to go to Sanya. We met with very high-level government officials. Their mayors, like the mayor of Chengdu, which reports directly to the People's Republic of China, has 34 million people, 3 times as many as LA. There's a city that I met with that's called Dadukao, which is a district. It's actually a district within Chongqing. They're going through a similar thing as El Segundo. They have a history of industry. It was actually the military epicenter during World War II when the U.S. helped fight off the Japanese in China. And they are going through a transformation of sorts as well. I'll share more information with the council. They wanted me to sign an MOU that it would exchange ideas, and I said only if the council agrees, so I had them actually amend the MOU, signed it with that stipulation, and I'll be reviewing that with all of you. Built great relationships with one U.S. congressman who was on the trip, Mark Takano out of Riverside, 5 assembly members, one of which happens to be next door to us, next to Autumn Burke, and 5 other mayors. And I can tell you that that relationship building was the best part of the trip. The Chinese were very hospitable. They rolled out the red carpet. The amount of development is unbelievable. The people they've brought out of poverty, also unbelievable. It was interesting being there with the trade talks going on, because the first meeting we walked into was the second in command of the Foreign Ministry of China. And he gave basically our congressman an earful about his opinion of the tariffs. So it's a little awkward. The congressman put him in his place. Actually, I was quite proud of him. And I thought this is going to be a really interesting trip. It became much more congenial after that. But I learned a ton, and I know that those relationships that we built will help the city as we go forward. And I want to thank everyone for allowing me to go. And while I was in China, the assemblyman, Robert Rivas, his district represents Gilroy, had to leave suddenly with the shooting. And it reminded me of how much we still need to do to protect all citizens in our country with Gilroy and Dayton and El Paso. So I just want to take a moment of silence for the people that have lost their lives in the last 12 days. And if you could just allow us that, that'd be great. Thank you. It was a great vigil last night at Library Park that my family and I were able to attend. Thank you to Amy for setting that up. That was very nice in memory of all the victims. We're going to move on to the city attorney. Any reports?
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. City manager?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff will follow up on the speakers and items as so directed tonight. And then by way of sharing some stuff coming up, you did hear about National Night Out. That's tomorrow. That's exciting. So next year, rather than do National Night Out the day after it takes place through the nation, we'll just schedule the council meetings as such, so we don't have a council meeting on National Night Out Tuesday, so we can participate with the rest of the country at the same time, if the council's okay with that. I see positive nods. We'll do that. This weekend on Saturday at 10 a.m. at the local Mormon church, there'll be a service for Mackenzie Lewick, and the public is invited to that. There'll be a city manager meet and greet on the 12th, next Monday, from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Slice and Pint, and that will also be on our website. And the public is, just to make the public aware, they can attend if they like. And then the next council meeting will be on August 20th. A few items worth noting: 3 public hearings, 2 associated with the budget process, the annual fee schedule process. We also have the Raytheon project, the amendment to the development agreement that's scheduled to come back or to come to the council August 20th. The zone text amendment for commercial office and mixed use north zoning changes. I'm not 100% sure what that one is, but we'll be ready for you on the 20th. That's it by way of city manager follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we've got a presentation on the art walk, update on the art walk, and I see John back there.
Hi guys, how's everyone doing today? I just wanted to give a quick update about the El Segundo Art Walk. This is our third and the final one, coming up on August the 15th. The last two have been exceedingly great. We feel like the attendance, the artists, the businesses, it's all been very positive. So I just want to kind of go through a few updates. The Arts and Culture Committee asked us to kind of come in and kind of talk a little bit about how it's going, and then also talk to the city manager to kind of, give you guys a quick update. So here we go. Okay, so the mission, it's the same mission, to improve the local community, inspire culture, and create economic opportunities for artists, galleries, and businesses in the city of El Segundo. A quick update, 2019, kind of talked about that. Let's see if this slideshow will work for me. Go. Okay, so the overview, this is the third event. Like I said, the first two, one in June, one in July. This next one is coming up next Thursday on the 15th. Let's see, where am I pointing this? There we go. Okay, so this last event in July, it was our largest event ever. We had 45 businesses throughout El Segundo. We had 55 artists. It was a wide range of artists, from glass blowers to the House of Gong, which is, if you look at the picture on the left.
That was awesome.
Yeah. It was,
Sorry.
No, it was, absolutely. It was, it's a pretty unique experience. I think the city of El Segundo is, has quite a few of these, unique experiences that a lot of people don't know about, and we feel like the art walk really kind of allows the people to, come out and enjoy it. The attendance in June was 4,200, and in July 4,400. These are pretty good estimates based off of clicker counts at 4 locations. So just at the SMOA, I think they had over 2,000 people there click through in July, which is their largest ever. And if you look at the picture over to the left, that's the art installation that excuse me that was installed, made up of 12,000 straws that were collected on the beach throughout Southern California. So it was just, kind of a social, yeah, thank you. It was a social commentary. And yeah, there it is right there. So James Patterson, he was the artist, and that was our June activation. So we have another kind of larger activation in August, but it's going to be more of like a street mural, spray paint kind of installation. We're trying to get him to do some live art, but it's going to come in kind of a 16-foot panel, so it should be pretty good for the main venue. Okay, so the event awareness and the local and regional marketing. One thing that we really kind of focused on this year, that we kind of added to, was the magazine, the El Segundo magazine. So I think you guys might have seen it around. It's each month, 10,000 copies get distributed out through the South Bay, through the West Side, all the way down to Long Beach. So we feel like that's that's really helped, kind of grow, the exposure of the event. The articles are written about the city, they're written about the artists, and then they also feature the businesses. So it's been a great way to kind of feature what's great about, El Segundo. There's a picture of the June one. 10,000 issues. We already talked about that. Okay, so one thing that was actually pretty exciting was that we were featured on the CBS News twice. They did a pre-event and a post-event. It was a 30-second capture about the El Segundo Art Walk. So thank you to the CBS News. The Facebook events are growing. We had over 6,000 people confirmed or interested in going just to the July event, which is a dramatic increase from last year's Facebook presence. Part of that has to do with more targeted marketing. Part of that has to do with increased ad spends, and then also, the overall event is just growing in popularity. Let's see. Okay, the future of the Art Walk. We still want to grow this as a cultural destination, and so part of that is continuing to do, kind of large activations and big pieces that are main attractions. Something that'll get the additional press coverage. That'll get the to kind of get the people out that might not come out. And then we talked about the benefits of the city, for the city of El Segundo. Tourism marketing, I mean, we covered this through some of the previous discussions. I don't think we need to kind of hit a lot on the benefits. I mean, I think you guys have a good understanding of the Art Walk, but I'm having a hard time with this clicker here. So the revenue for the businesses, I think through some of our polling, the restaurants and in the local businesses, this is by far their biggest nights of the year. It's been the feedbacks have been extremely positive. There we go. And then the culture building. We feel like creating events like this really allows the people of El Segundo to come out, to be prideful, of their city and to show off their businesses. So, if you guys have any questions about this upcoming event, I'd be happy to kind of answer. Thank you for the water. Again, I was struggling up here.
I just have one thing. So thank you. And I know this is really more directed to Meredith about the farmers market closes at 7. And I know this last time I was talking to the staff, and they were saying how it would be better if we could extend the hours of the farmers market, because a lot of those shops stayed open because there was lines for the food. So I just want to, maybe we should be proactive in that and determine a time and hold it open until, say, 8 o'clock rather than the 7 o'clock, so that the vendors know to stay open and don't close up, and they have an extra hour of selling time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to us.
I noticed attending the event this year, there's an increase in the security personnel you have. Can you speak to that? How many did you increase from last year? And
Right. So last year, we were still kind of activating that space and trying to figure out the flow of it. But the way that the crowd flows through the space, there's one main exit and then one main entrance. But we want to have enough security personnel to kind of monitor to make sure people aren't bringing in stuff that they shouldn't bring in, or walking out with with any alcoholic beverages. So one thing that we really focused on in June and July was trying to increase the security presence. But they're a professional crew. They're they're licensed and bonded. They stand out. They're big guys in suits. It's probably a little bit of an overkill, but we feel like it's probably the right way to go as this event grows. So We had 5 security guards throughout 3 venues, but 3 of them at the main venue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
I will.
that, John.
Can I share one comment? So we interviewed someone earlier today for a CCB, and then she's lived in town for 3 months, but she wants to get involved. And she was talking about her and her husband's experience in town, and she said that she had attended the first 2 art walks and how amazing it was. And she said it was crazy to think that such a small town could have such a robust event held in it. And she referenced this Stages tour in Austin or something that her and her husband would attend, and
Yeah.
she said like that the art walk almost like exceeds what that event is in Austin. And so I just thought it was a really nice compliment, and I thought I'd share it with you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for feedback and suggestions because I mean, as this event grows, we're going to have to make some decisions as well. So, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, John. Have a good night. All right, public communications.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to speak, so you get my casual attire, which looks like I fit in tonight. My name is Emily Lane. I am a member of the school board. I came to, listen to the TLC parking lot discussion and just hear where you guys are at, and I'd like to make a few comments. First off, the facility master plan is on our website. I encourage everyone to go to it. It is listed there. If you go to the top corner under community, the plan is there. To address a couple of Dr. Brand's comments, this project is not a part of the bond. This is something that we knew needed to be done, and we made a decision before the bond to fund this in a separate manner in case the bond was not to pass, that this would continue. I find it a little disturbing with some of the comments of not understanding how we got to this, given in light of the new aquatics facility that is at Weisburn and what the city and Dr. Brand completely supported, using funds on someone else's site. And our school district is contributing to that because we are using the facility. And I think that is no different than what we are asking for here. So if you want to talk about precedents and all that, we just did it. And so I think it's a little disheartening to hear those kind of comments in our, and a district here in our own town also. I really think this is a win for the public. As Scott talked about that area and the impact, the school district receives no funds from the rental of the field. The city maintains it and also has the money received from that. And so it's a great opportunity to give people using those fields an opportunity to park. So that's how this really came about. And just on a side note, I've been saying this a lot. On the school district, every Friday we do a Friday update where all of us put in what things we've gone to. Dr. Moore puts it together, and that goes out to all of us so that we know what's going on. I've heard this a couple times in the city that you guys don't really know what's happening in different subcommittees. I think it's something that would really behoove the city so that these conversations don't happen and people don't get blindsided. It really helps us with all of our various committees going on that we have an understanding of where things are going to and can ask questions before it gets to a voting phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lane. Yeah, please approach the mic. Yeah, you have 5 minutes to speak about whatever you'd like, and just state your name, please.
Okay, good evening. My name is Cheryl Wendell, and I'm part of a group called Mass Resistance, which is an organization in Boston, Massachusetts. They've been around for 25 years. They started pushing back with the school systems in Boston because they weren't happy with the way that the schools were educating their children with sexual education, safe sex matters, and matters to do with homosexuality. The reason I tell you this is that we staged a protest in front of the El Segundo Museum of Art on July the 20th. 26, excuse me, where an event called Drag Queen Story Hour was taking place, where an adult entertainer comes to read storybooks to children ages 3 to 8. Now, when my son was born, I took 30 units of early childhood education. I have a paralegal degree. I have a degree in organizational leadership. My son went on to UCLA. He went to law school. He now works for Veterans Appeals in Washington, D.C. When I learned about these events 2 months ago, and they've been going on for 4 years, they started in San Francisco, I was absolutely appalled. And I can just barely speak to it after 2 months of having some contact with the reality. Are you aware of what these performers, this is the man who performed here in your town and read stories to 3-year-olds. Are you aware of what they do with their Instagram accounts? I mean, I'm just here to publicize the issue because in my circles of influence and the people that I know, nobody knows about Drag Queen Story Hour. Somehow it is a well-kept secret. And I think that the public should know, because in Houston, Texas, where one of our chapters is located, some of these performers have been found to have felony backgrounds, criminal backgrounds, 2 in particular. So the state of Ohio is trying to legislate to categorize these events under the umbrella of child abuse, child endangerment. It's a very difficult subject to speak to because I can't believe the United States of America, the culture here, has come to this. So it's just a way of publicizing for the record and to make you more aware as leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sandy Wilson White, 2000 Wilson-White. I've lived in El Segundo in my youth at 2 times in my life, with my dad having worked for Chevron for many, many years and retired from Chevron. And anyway, in this beautiful town, I always thought of it as the Mayberry of the South Bay. This ugliness is going on. And it's not a matter of protesting LGBTQ. What it is protesting the inappropriateness of having these adult entertainers being role models to our young children, 3 years to 8 years old. And unfortunately, they're not always vetted the way they should be, for sexual abuse or being sex predators in their background or anything like that. And it's hard to actually, apparently, to vet them because they go by a different moniker than their given names and their family names. And this particular one that was here in your town, his name is Pickle. That's his moniker. And his, but that in itself has a sexual connotation. But the full moniker is Pickle Chugger. So you know what that means, I'm sure. Anyway, this is not supposed to be a role model for our children, and this is a sad case because it seems to be pushed by around the country. Some of these events are being paid for by Whole Foods in Atlanta, Georgia. It's been sponsored by NFL or AFL teams. Well, the AFL team, I guess, is the Falcons. And then also the NBA team in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia. And so there's this big push to over-sexualize our children, which shouldn't be done at all, no matter what point of view you're looking at, that shouldn't be done. But to push this tragic lifestyle, which it is a mental illness, but it's not politically correct to say that. A lot of them die prematurely. There's a very high incidence of them, much more than normal heterosexual people. I'm talking about just drag queens, at around 30%. So, yeah, suicide. So early death by suicide. And do we want to push this on our children? Unfortunately, we do have some parents that just think it's more important to be quote unquote inclusive. And they think that's doing the best for their children, but they are sacrificing their children on the altar of leftism. And they don't know how this is going to affect their children. And there's a teacher that we've come to spend some time with that works in Long Beach. She said she's seen so much of this in her school, and she's followed her students from at different ages, through the school, and she knows them personally, and she's so upset that all this pushing this LGBTQ education in our public schools is actually giving the children anxiety, and they don't know how to, they have to deal with this. All of a sudden they have this burden of wondering what gender they are, and if they're this or they're that. And I mean, why can't kids just be children?
Thank you. All right, that looks like it for public communications. Any council comments? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much. 8:08 p.m.